Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Little Green Men, which is episode 7 of season 4 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one episode at a time. In this video I cover the 4th season episode Little Green Men. So Little Green Men is the episode in which Quark is taking Nog back to Earth to start Starfleet training to get a Starfleet Academy, and Rom is taking them there on Quark's new ship that his cousin Galen gave him, but apparently Galen intended for that ship to blow up and set it with a flaw, but Rom uses his engineering genius to save the ship. However, doing so takes them back in time, and they end up in the 40s, where they are in fact the Roswell aliens being interrogated at Area 51 by the US military, who thinks they're there to invade Earth. But thankfully Odo is there to help them escape, and they manage to get away and return to the proper timeline. I wish I could come here and be more positive. I know many of you probably are hoping I will, or at least think more positively on this episode, but I always make a point of being honest, and honestly, I don't really like this episode. I'm sorry. In fact, when I watched it a couple days ago for this review, I noted when I watched it, I was in a really bad mood, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't watch this episode when I'm in such a bad mood. But again, I don't really have time to delay things. I gotta keep things moving, and that was my allotted time to watch Deep Space Nine, so I watched it, and I was like, do I have to watch this? I really didn't want to watch it. And I tried to give it a fair shake. I really did. But this episode's boring, and it's not funny. So, I remember I first heard the premise back when it first came out in the TV guide, and it was like, this wacky episode coming this season where Quark and Rom and Nog and Odo travel back in time, and they're the Roswell aliens. Woo, isn't that funny? First of all, that spoiled it that Odo was there. I didn't know that was in the reveal until the end of the episode. So whole episode I was waiting for Odo to show up, and I was like, maybe the TV guide was wrong. But then he was there, and I was like, okay, they just spoiled it is all. Secondly, the idea for this episode sounds a lot better than what it is. That sounded when I first heard that idea, it sounded like a fun episode. This sounds like a kooky episode. What are they gonna do with this? Have them be the Roswell aliens. That's pretty out there. I don't know. I'd kind of put it on par with Strange New Worlds trying all these crazy ideas, doing a musical episode, which I wish they didn't. I wish you wouldn't. Just stick to the classic stuff of what you're good at. You don't have to try to do weird, crazy shit. This episode, the musical episode, doesn't sound like a good idea. It sounds like a stupid idea. So it's different than this, because this actually sounds like a good idea. But they don't really do anything with it. Most of the episode is, first of all, there's a lot of time in the episode is spent on the preamble of Nog going to Starfleet and then having a going away sale and trying to sell all of Nog's shit, and then them bitching back and forth in the shuttlecraft. Although I will say the one funny moment from this thing that I did one of the few funny moments in the episode, is when Nog is looking at the guidebook that Bashir and O'Brien gave him, and he's looking at the Bell of Riots. He's like, doesn't this look just like Commander Sisko? And Quark's like, all humans look alike. That was funny. But other than that, most of this is just a waste of time. And then once they get back in time and get to the Roswell aliens, first of all the characters are like cartoon caricatures. They're like really silly and not believable as real people. Like the general is kind of your, stereotypical gruff general smoking cigars, and his underling is like the stereotypical, I'm gonna, they're here to invade and money, we're gonna fight, war. And then they have that scientist guy who's very stereotypical cliche scientist guy, and his nurse, which is a very typical cliche helpful friendly nurse. So they're all caricatures, and sometimes you can do funny stuff with caricatures, but most of the episode was just boring. I'm sorry. It was like them, first they're like trying to figure out how to talk to them, and they're like, they're mimicking us. Isn't that funny? He. And, so a lot of the episode is them like trying to figure out how to talk to them. And then once they do talk to him, it's not any funny or interesting because it's Quark just trying to sell them shit, which is, of course, Quark would do that. And I don't know, like the majority of the episode just takes place at this army base, and it's just them army guys talking to Quark and Nog, and them thinking that they're aliens here to invade, and Quark thinking he's gonna sell shit to and change the timeline. And it's mostly boring. I'm sorry, I don't actually have a whole hell of a lot to say about it. Maybe it's just my sense of humor. Maybe it's because I was in a bad mood when I was watching it. But, to be fair, to me, I've seen this episode many times before this, and it never connected with me any of those other times either. So I don't think it was just my bad mood. I maybe just made it worse. But okay, so there were a couple funny moments. The guidebook thing I already mentioned. That's probably the funniest moment. I must admit, when the dude's torturing the three of them and saying, you're here for an invasion, admit it. And Ram starts crying out for his Moogie. He's like, I want my Moogie. And then Nog is like trying to be like, you're right, we are here to invade you all. And so the three of them are sort of talking at the same time with, Quark saying, no, we just want to sell you things. We're not invading. And Nog like, it's no point, Supreme Commander. They found it out. Then we're going to kill you all with our death rays. And then at the same time, Ram's sitting there going, Moogie. And I must admit, especially the Rom part of it, him going Moogie while Nog and Quark are off doing this shit. Okay, so that was funny. But not, like, hilarious. Not knock me dead, fall off the seat, laughing hilarious. Kind of like, haha, chuckle. Kind of funny. And, so in my humble opinion, it does not at all justify this episode's existence. Is not enough. In fact, I think the joke about all humans look alike, I think that's funnier than this. But, and then I think those are the only two funny moments in the episode, if I'm being honest. Like, nothing else, like Quark saying, I'm gonna sell you things, and when he says, I'd rather sell to you Australians, like Americans, whatever. Like, none of that is funny. Odo turning into the German Shepherd, and like going up to Quark, that's not funny. The two, like the scientist and the nurse, saying their silly shit when, like, she was like, maybe one day Earth will join a vast alliance of planets, and Rom's like, Federation. Like, that's not particularly funny. The general being a dumbass and talking, that's not funny. Like, I don't know what's supposed to be funny, honestly. I think maybe the Quark acting like, I want to sell you shit, maybe that's supposed to be funny. I kind of get that feeling, I guess. But there doesn't even seem to be moments in this episode that are meant to be funny. It seems to mostly just be, look, they're the aliens from Roswell. And there's only so far you can take just a premise. Like, you need to actually have something interesting on screen happening in order to make a premise good. Like, you can't just be like, oh, this is a cool premise, let's just do some shit and have them stand around the room talking and for an hour, and the premise will carry it. That's not how it works. Like, you need to actually have something funny in your episode, and you need to have something interesting, and maybe some other people comment and saying, well, I actually found this funny. So, sense of humor is subjective. I will say this, and this is just my humble opinion, that this episode did not connect with my sense of humor, except for that joke about all humans look alike, and the Rom screaming, I want my Moogie, was like worth a chuckle. It was like, haha, kind of worthy. That's about it. Like, and I'm struggling to try to find things to say about this episode. Okay, so Cousin Galen, he was mentioned before in Civil Defense, as owning a moon, and then I think Way of the Warrior, Quark mentioned him again, and that was the episode he mentioned that he was an arms dealer. And then in this episode, he like gives him a shuttle. It's like, oh, I loaned him this money, he owes me a shuttle. And the shuttle was meant to like kill them. Like, they all would have died. Now, maybe he just meant to kill Quark, but he should have known that Quark might have taken other people along on the shuttle, and he had no regard for their safety. So he actively tried to kill Quark. And then when we see him again in season 5, he's like, oh yeah, that whatever, let's forget about the past. Like, that doesn't... And then he offered him a job to work with him. Like, why would he? I guess that's more of a problem in the season 5 episode, but why would he go from trying to kill him to offering him a job? And also, like, even if you forget about the season 5 episode, like, they never established anything about Galen and why he would actively want to kill him. Like, they kind of hinted that it wasn't like the nicest guy, but to like try to kill him, like give him a ship that's like designed to explode on him. Plus, isn't there cheaper ways to kill someone than like getting an entire ship? I don't know. It's what the plot required. What else about this episode? Yeah, Odo's wasted. Like, he doesn't even do anything. He like shows up at the last second, helps them get on the ship. That's it. He might as well not even be in the episode. Like, there was even no point of him being there. It's just, there's a plot device to help them get away from the army people, but the scientists helped him get away. So I don't even know if he was even... Well, the one time the general guy did corner them and Odo showed up and beat him up, but I was like, that hardly seems worth including him. Like, they didn't even use him. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have much to say about this episode. I'm struggling to try to find things to say, but it's just nothing to it. It's just a premise. That's all it is. It's a premise. So anyway, I'm just going to jump straight to Patreon comments. I would like to thank everyone on Patreon that supports me. It's very much appreciated. This helped me continue with the channel. I'd like to give a big special thanks to Brandon Neilhouse and Jordan Johnson. Thank you both so very, very much for your strong support. I'd also like to give a shout out to Tyler Cease, Benjamin Mead, Antarius, Greg Marley, Francisco, Chuck Hooks, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky Matty Jester, Joel Valls, Alessandro Miglacino, Norman Buchwald, Stephen Kennedy, Britton Berg, and Allison Fordyce. Thank you all so very, very much for your support. So we do have a few Patreon comments on this episode somewhere. I just need to find them. Give me a second. First comment is from Antarius, who says, Hopefully Nog raised a lot of money. He will certainly need to spend a lot for expensive tutoring. This episode features maybe the worst technobabble that we have heard since the end of TNG. I enjoyed this small scene between Odo and Quark at the beginning. I have the feeling that we see less scenes with them than before. This is maybe one of the very few details that work better in the first 2 seasons. The scenes on Earth were okay, but it's a shame that we only see the military base. More could have been done with this topic. Okay, of course, we never find out whether Quark actually went to prison for smuggling. My rating is a 7 out of 10. What do you mean we never found out? He's in the next episode, or whatever next episode he appears in, so clearly he didn't. So, I mean, he's not going to go to the prison in between episodes for like 2 weeks or whatever. So, obviously, he beat the charges like he always does. It's, they have to reset the episode, so they're never going to be clear on this. Maybe the magistrate, like Odo always says, told that to the magistrate. Maybe the magistrate was like, yeah, we don't have the evidence that he smuggled it, so we're going to let him go. I think that's what happened. I don't think Nog's going to need a lot of money for tutoring because the Federation doesn't use money. He can get it for free. As far as the technobabble, I don't know. I think there was just as much technobabble in something like Rejoined when they were talking about the wormhole. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's been a few opportunities for technobabble, but it's not as common in Deep Space Nine, so when they use it, it does stick out a bit more. Like Rom saying, the technobabble, tech is taking us back in time, which is what the plot requires. Anyway, so next comment is from Stephen Kennedy, who says, as I'm going to England, I don't have time to watch the next few episodes. I love this episode, and I don't care about this review, as I know you're just going to bash this episode. So this question has nothing to do with Star Trek. Did you ever watch cricket while you were in New Zealand, as I know you love sports like this episode? Ha ha ha. So my rating is a 9. Thank you, Donald Trump, for canceling my trip to Chicago for my 50th birthday, so I'm going to England and Sweden instead. I could say more, but I leave it there. I'll leave it there out of 10. You're probably better off going to Sweden. Especially if you're just going to go to Chicago. That's just another boring big city. But maybe I just say that because I'm from the States. So I'd rather go to Sweden than Chicago. I'll tell you that much right now. But again, I'm a little biased because I am America. But American, I'm not American. But anyway, did I watch cricket when I was in New Zealand? No, I don't believe I ever did. New Zealanders did watch cricket. They did play cricket. I remember hearing about it, but it wasn't nearly as big as rugby. Rugby was the big thing. That was everywhere. That's the thing. Everybody watched. Everyone always said, oh, the rugby's on tonight. No, we're watching the rugby. So I actually did watch a game of rugby once, or a couple times, but it wasn't the entire game. I got a little bit bored because I couldn't really follow the rules. I remember when I was drinking with someone, they were trying to explain the rules to me. I like, yeah, this, because it looks like American football, but then they will do something really weird, like put the ball down and kick it, and you're like, what the hell is going on? But they were like, and it had the scrum where they all jump up in this pyramid thing, human pyramid. So that was really weird. But yeah, so I watched rugby, but I never watched cricket. Cricket wasn't quite as big over in New Zealand. I mean, I heard about it from time to time, but yeah. You know, I wish that you actually did talk about this episode. I think it's fair that you're not going to care about my review because you know I don't like it. That's fair. But I actually am genuinely curious why you gave this episode a 9 out of 10. Like, I wanted to hear your opinion. I mean, obviously I disagree with that opinion, but still, I wanted to hear it. Like, curious to know, like, is it because it's hilarious? Like, do you think it's funny? Do you think the parts... Because sense of humor is... I'm not, like, putting you down, because sense of humor is it's a very subjective thing. Everyone has different sense of humor. So it's like the thing with Quark saying, "I'm Quark and I'm here to sell you shit." Like, is that hilarious to you? I'm just curious. Like, or do you think it's like great character story? Do you think it's like fascinating premise? Like, why is it that you gave this episode 9 out of 10? I'm curious. Anyway, next comment is from Benjamin Mead. So I have another hygiene comment. Obviously, I'm a germaphobe. Worf uses that tooth sharpener right there in the bar. Who picks up someone else's toothbrush and uses it, especially without cleaning it. I used to like this episode a lot, and the concept is really funny, so I rewatched it last night intending on coming here to defend it, but honestly, there isn't a lot in this episode. Once they get to Roswell, not much really happens. This episode highlights the logistical problems of the Universal Translator. Ferengi wanting to capitalize on a primitive society is a trope that will be done again soon on Voyager. The interrogation scene actually is pretty funny. The high-pitched Ferengi scream gets me every time. I recently went to Cleveland, and it's actually a nice city, so I'm glad the Ferengi didn't invade. I would have hated to see all the naked women. Quark says Ferengis in this episode, and Armin is always correcting Garrett on Delta Flyers that there is no S on the plural of Ferengi. That's a good catch. I didn't notice that. I did hear Armin constantly correcting Garrett on the Delta Flyers, but I wonder if they're going to catch this when they get to this episode. I wonder if Garrett's going to be like, aha, you did say Ferengis. But anyway, I'm sure he'll make an excuse for it. Now, I am not a germaphobe. I'm pretty far from a germaphobe, if I'm being incredibly honest. But I also noticed that thing of Worf just picking that thing up and shoving it in his mouth. Even I, as a really clearly not germaphobe, thought that was gross. Like, what are you doing? Like, I wouldn't want to use anyone else's toothbrush, even if I did clean it. Certainly wouldn't want to use it if I didn't clean it. Like, just picking it up. Yeah, I noticed that right away, too. So I think that's egregious. Now, as far as, like, nothing really happening once they get to Roswell, that's what I'm saying. Like, nothing really happens. Like, there's a lot of build-up, and there's one funny joke about the humans looking alike, and then they're just standing around the military base forever, and then they have this one funny scene where Rom says he wants his Moogie, and that's it. There's nothing else to this episode. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was kind of funny, too, when Nog said he was going to invade right there, and they're like, what, Cleveland? And it's like, not Cleveland, here. Like, not funny, but, I don't know. Interesting, I guess. Maybe a little, like a small chuckle. But anyway. I don't think I've ever been to Cleveland, actually. I think I've been to Cincinnati, but not Cleveland. I've been to like this town outside of Cleveland for a concert, but not into Cleveland itself. But anyway. Next comment is from Norman Buchwald, who says, so in the 90s, it was so in with X-Files and later Futurama to somehow explain Roswell, and I have to admit, explaining them with the Ferengi, this I truly did believe was gold. And thank goodness, instead of annoying Zek or Brunt or Ferengi with whips, we got the 3 Ferengi characters that have depth and we actually like, which is why this is one of the more successful Ferengi episodes in Trek. The comedy mostly worked, and by adding context/continuity, such as we learn for the Ferengi, the Universal Translators are in their ears, and Sisko's picture appears on the history of the Bell Riots with one of the best Quark lines, all humans look alike. It is also nice where much to Quark's shock, And of course, since he's a civilian, he would not give a damn of the Temporal Prime Directive anyway, that his efforts to make a deal with the planet Earth, of course, backfires. The plot resolves itself way too conveniently, the scientist and the nurse helping them escape. And yeah, the Odo at the end no longer had his evidence, but come on, Odo could have easily gotten Quark behind bars, especially after invasive procedures. That whole notion that Odo wants to catch Quark in the act is nonsense, especially after the B story and Hippocratic Oath. I will give it 8 hands slapped on the ears in the effort to communicate out of 10. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, you thought it was a blast. I don't really see what's so much. I'm just missing something here. I don't like. If it was Zek or Brun, I don't think it would be any less interesting. I would think it would be just as boring as it is without them. I don't know. It might be more annoying, especially if Brunt was there, but still, like, it's not like there was gold with Nog and Rom. I mean, that one joke about him wanting his Moogie, that's it. But anyway, sorry, being all pessimistic. But anyway, the X-Files and there was even a show called Roswell. And all this stuff to try to explain Roswell. Yeah, I remember that in the 90s. That was a bit of a trend, and they were all into the alien invasion thing with the X-Files as well, which I feel like people nowadays don't really give a shit about anymore. They're kind of over it. You know, there was that whole, like, the whole thing about, it wasn't invade, but it was like Rush, or like, what was it, something, Area 51, it was this whole thing online where people were going to like rush Area 51 or something. I can't remember what they called it, but anyway, that was dumb. That never happened. Yeah, so you're right about the whole Odo thing, that he had plenty of opportunity to catch Quark, and if he wanted to really do that, he would have. There's other episodes that would have, like, but he did take him away and say, tell that to the magistrate, but apparently, well, because he's back again in the next episode, so apparently nothing came of that. So, the Universal Translator is an interesting thing, because this, I think, is the first episode that establishes that the Universal Translators, like, in their head or in their ears, like, at least for the Ferengi, might be different for other people. But here's the thing, like, I think there's been a couple other episodes that say that the Universal Translators in, like, the communicator. But first of all, not everyone has a communicator, and secondly, even some people who do, they lose their communicator, and yet they're still able to communicate. So actually it would make more sense to me that the Universal Translators would be implanted in their heads. But let's be honest here. The Universal Translator is just a BS excuse of why everyone's speaking English. They just came up with it after the fact. I know earlier stuff, like stuff that's set chronologically earlier, like Enterprise and maybe Strange New Worlds, they try to play with it and be like, oh, this is why the Universal Translator. But it really, especially in this era of Star Trek, the Berman era, it's just an excuse of why they're speaking English. And so they didn't want them speaking English or being able to communicate with each other in opening scenes. So they was like, well, let's just have the Universal Translator malfunction, and they had to come up with, well, how can they have Universal Translator? Maybe it's in their ears. I don't know. It's all kind of plot contrivance. In my opinion, but yeah, I think that's about it to say about this episode. So, thank you, patrons, so much for your comments. So, my rating for Little Green Men out of 10 is going to be a 4 poor. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. This episode's not funny. It's not interesting. Like, it's a good concept. That's all it is. It's like, oh, isn't this a crazy concept? If they were the Roswell aliens. And what do they do with that concept? Nothing. They have a bunch of caricatures. A scientist caricature, the general caricature, and it seems more like a cartoon, yet it's not particularly funny. Like, it's not funny. Like, nothing had, they're just sitting there, like, bumping their heads or whatever, and trying to communicate and saying, oh, I'm going to invade Cleveland. Like, they have one funny moment when Rom's crying for his Moogie, but it's mostly just, like, boring. I'm sorry, it's boring. I don't really get any entertainment value out of this. I call me a curmudgeon or whatever, I just don't like Ferengi episodes, and this one just doesn't do it for me. It's just, I don't see why people like it. I'm just confused. Anyway, that is it for my review of Little Green Men. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like a comment, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, that sort of thing. Really helps the channel out, and if you really want to support the channel, you could do so by supporting me on Patreon. There is a link in the description below. I give different rewards, such as a series of Patreon-only videos that I do where I revisit reviews that I've already made, exclusive for Patreon supporters. Also, you can leave comments, I'll read my reviews, and pre-releases, stuff like that you can check out if you are so inclined to do so. So, let's see what's coming up next on my channel. This Monday, I'll be over on Patreon doing one of those Patreon exclusive videos, revisiting my review for the Voyager episode, Cold Fire. And on Thursday, I'll be reviewing the newest episode of Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 4. And then Saturday, back here for another DS9 review for The Sword of Kahless. So that's what's coming up on my channel. Be sure to check it out as I continue to cover Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager and Strange New Worlds and many other videos on Star Trek and other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.